today's video, we are going to be talking about a young woman who I can only describe as a dark soul. I don't know how to comprehend how our victims' parents are able to continue their lives around this young woman who, in a way, forced their daughter to take her own life. This is a very dark person. Very scary, and the outcome of this entire story just gave me chills. Let's dive right in, guys. Alright. So, we are talking about Renae and Camila. So, Renae and Camila had known each other from school, and these two did almost everything together, although they were quite opposite. So it's kind of like opposites attract kind of a scenario with these two. Renae was pretty popular and outgoing, while Camille was described as quite frumpy and insecure. Despite their differences, Renae adored her friend Camilla, and to anyone watching from the outside in the beginning, Camilla seemed to adore Renae, but then things became very strange. It seemed that Camilla grew too attached to Renae and started to behave quite controlling and obsessive, almost like a jealous lover. Renae, who could be quite naive at times, would just brush it off. But when it became clear that Camilla's behavior was starting to take a toll on their friendship, she couldn't really brush it off anymore. The trouble was that these two had shared a lot together. They knew each other's weaknesses, and Camilla would exploit this fact and use it to her own advantage, playing on Renae's insecurities. Camilla started to psychologically control and manipulate Renae, even convincing her to end her happy relationship with her boyfriend. Camilla would put in Renae's head lies and create stories in an attempt to convince Renae that her boyfriend did not love her and that he was not good enough for her. Camilla's obsession with Renae seemed to go beyond just being envious of her looks and life. She seemed to be infatuated with her, and things just seemed to go from bad was beginning to wear off, and Camila began to spiral down even further. Braden had access to Renae's Facebook and even had the nerve to send rude messages to Renae's parents. Despite the tension, Renae stood by Braden and refused to break up with him. Camila was getting more and more aggressive and started to see red when Renae had sent a message to Braden saying that she wanted to distance herself from Camila because of how she was behaving. Camila knew her days were numbered. At this point, Camila was able to get inside Renae's head and turn her against pretty much anyone from friends to relatives. Soon she realized that with Braden, she had created a monster, because that was the one relationship that Renae was not prepared to give up that easily. Out of the blue, it was announced that Camila had to go on a trip to America with her relatives for a month. Camila knew she would have problems trying to keep track of the two phones she had, one which was supposed to belong to Braden whilst being away. So she came up with another story that Braden had to take part in a parole assessment for 1 month and would have his phone removed. Renae believed this story too and missed Braden terribly, but there was a shocking incident that really shook Renae up, and there was no going back from it. Before Camila left town, she tried her best to persuade Renae to get a tattoo of Braden's name, but she refused, and tensions between the two just, began to rise again. As they were both in the car on the highway, Camila grabbed the wheel and was trying to cause Renae to crash the car and unalive the both of them. Luckily, no harm occurred, and Renae was able to calm Camila down and go home safely. Renae told her mother about the incident, and it was clear that this was the final straw. Despite Braden not having access to his mobile phone, Renae continued to send him text messages and began to open up to him about what had been going on with Camila. Renae expressed in messages and personal letters that were later found in her bedroom that she wanted to end her friendship with Camila once and for all, and to just be with him completely. Weeks went by, and it was finally time for Camila to return to Australia. Camila switched on the phone she was using to catfish Renae, and soon she discovered all of the messages. She read each one of them in a rage and decided that she wanted the ultimate revenge. Feeling rejected, she decided that she would have Braden dump Renae in a very cruel fashion. She sent very cold and very heartless. Renae's mother tried to talk to her, but she insisted that she was fine and that she wanted to go out and just have some dinner with some of her other friends. When time went on and Renae didn't return home, it became apparent that something was wrong, very wrong. Our parents were soon to know the truth. Renae had driven to a popular beauty spot and took her own life by jumping to her death from a cliff. Her car was there with her old mobile phone, her new phone, which contained the 90+ abusive messages from Camila. This phone was never found. It's assumed that she had this phone with her when she jumped. In the back seat with a message that had been written on the window. It read, "I love you, Brayden." It was clear that Renae had been driven to the point of taking her own life from whatever horrible, messages were on that new phone, and the fact that she had just been dumped that day by her quote-unquote boyfriend of 18 months. She never found out that it was her so-called best friend that was the one really stalking, catfishing, and emotionally abusing her. Renae never knew that Brayden didn't exist. Now, Camila didn't waste any time getting rid of evidence. She went right ahead and deleted all of the messages between her and Renae, and Renae's old phone was locked, and the police explained to her parents that they couldn't access any of the data on her phone for whatever reason. Her parents didn't want to let that rest, and they were determined to get to the bottom of it all. So, something bizarre happened, and this 13-year-old kid told Renae's parents about an app which could open their daughter's old phone. It worked, and shockingly, all the messages that had been sent to the old phone, minus the recent ones that were sent to the new phone on the day of her death, between Renae, Camila, and Brayden, were all there in black and white, and all 18 months of messages were showed. Renae's father noticed a pattern with the messages. It became pretty obvious that every time Camila sent a message to Renae, Brayden would be silent, and so on and so forth. It was plain as day that these messages were being sent by the exact same person. Suspicions were already running high after Camila had visited Renae's parents, and she freaked out when they told her that they passed on Brayden's phone number to the police. She began to crumble, and it was all there. Everyone was horrified and in complete shock. When the details were revealed, Camila was cruel and calculating and a psychopath who drove her friend to her death. She spent months portraying someone who didn't even exist, and basically destroyed her best friend's life as well as her family's life and many others in the community. Renae was never found, and the new phone with the messages that pushed her to this point had never been found as well. The only two people that know what were on that phone is Camila and Renae. So Camila got away with this. There was no prison sentence, nothing. Australia at this time, catfishing, I mean, there was no law against it. Apparently, you have to be gaining financially out of it or for it to be a crime, and because Camila wasn't extorting money or goods from Renae, then it wasn't seen as a punishable offense. So the whole ordeal for Renae's parents and family continued on and on with more lies from Camila. Even 7 years after Renae's death, she was claiming that she and Renae were a lesbian couple who were frightened of not being accepted by their parents, so they both together made up Brayden. It was all lies, and letters were found in Renae's bedroom, which were for Brayden and expressed how uncomfortable she felt about Camila and planned to end the friendship for good. So there was never any proper justice for Renae, and the guy in the photo was never someone in prison. Had no idea who these girls were. I mean, Camila just made up everything. Renae's parents are still fighting for a change in this law when it comes to the dangers of catfishing, because it's very dangerous and very sick. But Camila, she still lives in the town. She got away with it. Apparently she got married, had some kids, and the parents of Renae still live there and literally see this psychopath in the grocery store sometimes. And I mean, it's just disgusting. It's truly disgusting. I don't know how that town didn't force that crazy lady out of there. I mean, there's only so much that can be done, but how disappointing is it to know as a parent that your daughter's death was caused by this person, clearly, and it's not punishable because there was no money involved. What time period? I mean, what's going on in Australia? I don't get this. I don't know that this was something that's saying that money's more valuable than a life. I just think that perhaps cases like this don't happen so often for them to have thought about the dangers of catfishing and what it can lead to, and if someone pushes another person to the point of death, then there should be some punishment involved. I don't know, so sad for Renae, but thank God that Renae's parents still have some fight left in them, that even though unfortunately they lost their beautiful, innocent daughter, that they are able to fight for other young adults, other people, anybody who may find themselves in a similar situation, that whoever is behind the catfishing is held 100% responsible. Like I said, Renae is a dark soul. She was clearly in love with her best friend and was a coward, a total punk, and didn't have the courage or the bravery to just be like, hey, I know we're friends, I'm in love with you, get rejected, and move on with your life. Like, the girl moved on with her life anyway and got married to a man and had kids, so you were very much capable of moving on. I think she has some kind of a personality disorder or something mentally definitely is off with her. But it seemed kind of like, you know, those kind of really abusive relationships where it's like, well, if I can't have you, nobody else can. It's so sick. She was just a coward. This girl is such a coward, and who in the hell married this monstrosity of a person? He has to know what happened. He has to know who he married. I mean, it's talk of the town. Everybody someone like this has changed. I think, like I said, she just moved on with her life and got away with this. But, this is dangerous and so sick. And my goodness, my heart just breaks for Renae's family and for Renae. I mean, she was really caught in this psychological web that Camila had set up and felt that there was no way out, which is so unfortunate because she had a life ahead of her. She was a beautiful young girl with a lot of life ahead of her, and it's so sad that sometimes people can't see past what they are in right now or the emotions that they're feeling because it feels so deep. So sad. Rest in peace to Renae. And this girl Camila will, if she doesn't get justice in this life, she will have it in the next. I don't know, but you don't do something so evil and so low like that and just sail on by. You don't. Goodness. Catfishing is terrible. It's terrible and it's cowardly. That's just my